What up? What up? What up, yo? This your boy Raz, man, coming to you from Dynasty Overload Podcast. Hey guys, I got something for you today. All right, something that you should be doing right now. Okay, so a lot of us are in our Dynasty leagues, and we're wondering, hey, what should we be doing now? Should we even be paying any attention? Because hey, nothing's going on, no games are being played. But I'm here to tell you that your Dynasty leagues, it's important to be active all year. Now, you don't have to be looking at your app every day, every 5 minutes. You don't have to be doing that, of course, but it is important to kind of stay active and to kind of have an idea of what you're doing. Okay, so guys, listen, I'm coming to you right now for Dynasty things to do ASAP. Dynasty things to be doing now. Okay, you don't have to be in a rush unless you haven't done anything or you haven't done any preparation. But let's just make sure that we're all doing the same things. We're all on time right now with this thing because right now the combine is going on, and I've heard a lot of guys from Dynasty say either, "Hey, should I be paying attention? Should I be looking at this? What's going on?" And I've had some guys that haven't logged into the app since the championship was over, okay, and probably since their season ended before the championship games, so they haven't logged in their app. They're probably not going to pay any attention until it's draft time, and I want to tell you that both of those things, in my opinion, is wrong. Now I could be wrong, but I think both of those are wrong. I don't think that you should be. You don't, if you are just wanting all the information, then yeah, you can be tied into the combine, and hanging at the edge of your seat. You can be doing that, but I just don't think it's important. And I also don't think that you should just be super laissez-faire, not paying any attention to your team as well. I don't think you should be doing that. Even if you're checking your team, I would say you should do it at least once a week. Check in there, see if there's any trade offers or anything like that. Should be checking at least once a week, because Dynasty is year round. Okay. So, what should we be doing? Okay. All right. So, the number one thing that you should do or should be doing is evaluating your team for one, and then picking a direction two. So, and what do I mean by that? You should evaluate your team, and you need to be honest in what you really believe you can do with your team. Hey, am I in a position to challenge and try to win a championship next year? Are you truly in that position? I would say if you finished if you finished fourth worst and under, you probably should be thinking that you're probably not going to challenge next year. So if you finished ninth, 11th, or 11th or 12th, ninth, 10th, 11th or 12th last year, I would say you're probably not gonna be challenging next year. Okay, if you finish seventh, eighth, even I would say ninth. I would say nine is probably the you probably takes more evaluation, but that's probably where you could go either way. Um, so I would say, yeah, I could see nine challenging, but 10 and below, you're definitely not challenging. Seven, eighth, ninth, you probably can challenge. Depending on a few things going your way. But you should be rightly choosing that. But listen, guys, there's going to be some guys that actually made it to the playoffs that probably won't be a challenge next year, depending on guys retiring, depending on situations changing. So there's gonna be some big situations and some things that are gonna really be affect what happens. And case in point, I have a team who won the championship last year. We actually won, and I don't think we're a challenge next year. I don't think we're a challenger. Okay, but saying, and one of the things I'm gonna tell you is take your time and really evaluate. Okay, that because that's a big question. That's going to really determine what you're going to do with the whole year of time. And, for if you're in a paid league, you're basically going to donate if you're not going to challenge. Okay. So if you're saying, hey, I'm not challenging, you're basically understanding that you are going to donate to another championship, another team's win. Okay. So these are things that you really need to take into consideration in what you're doing. So, with that being said, Take your time, um, consider all the factors, and then go from there. So now you want to say, hey, am I challenging? Am I a building team? Because you should always be either challenging or building. Okay. You shouldn't just be just going as the flow goes, saying don't do that, because the ultimate thing here is to win. We want to have fun, but we definitely want to win. All right. So if you are competing, I have just a few things, a few nuggets that I want to give you. Okay. Say you've done your evaluation and you say, hey, you know what? I'm competing. What should I do? How should I make my team a little bit better? So I just have a few nuggets that I just want to give both sides if you're competing or if you're going to be building. Okay. If you're competing, I don't want you to sell your next year's pick. That's something that we do so quickly. Hey, we're competing. I'm going for the championship. I'm pushing it all in. Here's my 25 first. Here's my 26 first. Do not do that. Let me repeat. Do not sell your next year's first. Do not do that. All right. I want that to be the absolute last thing that you should do. And in the only way, in the only instance that I ever want you to sell your next year's first, and as if you're in superflex, okay? In a superflex league, if you do not have a competent QB2 and you need a QB and you need that QB2, somebody's offering you somebody that can basically produce as a QB1, like maybe a Kirk Cousins or somebody like that. Definitely, if you can get Jordan Love or somebody like that for your 25 first, that's the only way and the only reason I would ever say, hey, you should do that. And it has to be basically your last piece. Okay. That should be the last piece to you winning the championship. It shouldn't be let me get this QB and this and that. And no, 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 no. No, absolutely not. It should be you should basically, if you're trading your 25 first, you're basically telling me that you have a just about super team and you're just missing that quarterback piece. That's what's happening. That's what you are telling me. Because it's so many times that I've seen this happen. I've seen the 25 first get traded, and that guy almost always regrets that trade or wishes he never did that. Almost always. Even in the situations where you trade for that QB that you think that's the last missing piece. Even most of the time with those, that guy's going to regret that decision. But I'm saying that's the only one that I can see you're sitting here telling me or selling me on that you're going to do and trade that 25 first. Somebody gave me a nugget last year, and I try to keep that in mind. And basically, they said they try not to sell their next year's first until at least midway through the season or around the trade deadline when they can kind of see if their team is actually in the is gonna if their team actually has a chance to make the playoffs or is in the playoff run or whatnot have you. And I think that's a good idea because that way hey, that first is probably going to be on the lower side. And that doesn't always work out. I did that this past season. I traded for Kelsey, try to make a run. I thought I had a pretty good team, a pretty challenging team. Man, we went on a losing streak, missed the playoffs. Now that pick is 1-6. And listen, do I regret it? Of course, if I could go back now, I would take it back. But I'm not saying that it was the worst move at all, because at some point you do have to try to win the championship. Okay. But I'm just in here saying it's a more educated move and a safer bet, even though I still lost it, than hey, just throwing darts and throwing picks away. So I do not want you to do that. And we're still talking about competing teams. So I don't want you to sell your 25 first. I don't want you to do that. And unless, and like I said, in rare occasion, you have the super team and you just need one quarterback. And then I would say, you know, wait. Still, you probably want to wait till we get closer to the year because those teams that are building that have older quarterbacks, they might want a certain return. But listen, at some point when you're not getting the return that you want, you'll go to the guy that you know that's buying. So let's move on. Um, Another thing is this: you're a competing team. Instead of selling those picks, I want you to sell questionables. Okay, and what I mean by that is it's not that you want to be continue to make your team old, but you do want to continue to make your team season and put talent on it. But I want to sell questionables. I want to sell, if I'm selling, I'm going to sell Keaton Mitchell. I'm going to be selling Marvin Mims. If I have a Will Levis, these are the guys that I'd be trying to sell instead of selling my 25 first. And the reason I say that is this: these are guys that, that have shown flashes their rookie year, but we can't sit here and say, hey, they're absolutely going to do X, Y, Z. So these are guys that that you can see flaws in, but um, people also can draw, hey, this guy can really achieve a lot. I believe that Will Levis is going to be pretty good. I think that Bryce Young might be pretty okay. But also, if I have a veteran team and I feel like, hey, I'm on the verge of challenging, or I think I can win a championship, I would definitely be considering selling, these type of guys, that Davis Allen guy, even some of these, receivers that have a lot of potential, but haven't really quite reached it yet. If I had a Quentin Mitchell or whatever his name is, Quentin, whatever his name is, uh, these are guys that I'd be trying to sell so that I can get pieces that fit my team to help me challenge. So I'd be giving up these. This is the cases where I'd be giving up younger pieces for older pieces because I'm trying to challenge. And I'm saying that's for competing teams. You typically in Dynasty, you don't want to be getting older. You want to be getting younger. But in this instance, say, hey, I'm challenging. I think I have a championship team. I need a receiver. I'm not giving away my 25 first. What I will do is try to package a Keaton Mitchell and a Marvin Mims and see if I can get somebody that's trying to come off of a, you know, maybe a Mike Evans. Maybe put a second with it or something like that, or another player with it, and you can get a Mike Evans, or you can get a Tyler Lockett for depth, something like that. So these are the type of things that I would more so be thinking along those lines. I would not be sitting here saying, hey, let me go ahead and sell off fantasy assets. And the reason for that is because even right now with your picks grow in value as we get closer to the draft. Not only that, but picks are going to be valuable to guys once they say, "Hey, you know what? I got a bunch of injuries here. Let me get these. Let me go and get picks." And and even yourselves, if you are, and that's another reason for competing teams. If you are a competing team, and all of a sudden you have a rash of injuries, and you're not competing anymore, hey, at least you have that pick, and you can say, well, it's gonna help my build or my rebuild quicker. Okay. All right. So save your building. So you've identified and you say, hey, I am a building team. Things that I want you to do is, for one, I want you to slow down and understand that you have plenty of time. So you don't have to be in a rush to do anything. You don't have to rush trades. You don't have to rush to go out and sell all your assets. You don't do that. All right. So the first thing I want you to do is to slow down. I want you to identify, okay, what areas do I want to build in? What areas do you feel is the best? I definitely want, if I'm building or rebuilding, the thing that I want to do is I probably want to establish my quarterbacks. So I would say start building QB, and then you'll probably want to build um, receiver, tight end, build running back last. I said that's the typical way of thought. If you think differently, hey, do it your way. But that's probably how I would build. But don't be too fast. Now, another thing is this: if you are trying to buy picks, you're gonna want to buy them now. You probably should have bought them last month, but you're probably going to want to buy them now because, like I said, the closer we get to the draft, you're not going to be able to buy them. And here's my other advice: after this month, do not buy any picks. Not unless you see somebody selling them for dirt cheap. Do not buy picks, okay? Because most of the time they're going to cost you too much. And here's the thing: a pick is worth less after it's picked. Okay, that's going to be true and with everything except for the quarterback position. A pick is going to be worth less after the pick is made. And one other thing that won't make that true is probably be Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors, because guys are so hype about those guys right now that I would say they'll probably cost more after the draft or maintain the same price. But those picks will probably cost more. So outside of your QBs and those two special receivers, everything else is gonna probably be around the same price. So we're talking about five QBs and two receivers. So outside of those seven people, everybody else, in my opinion, is either gonna cost you either less or the same. So, I can see maybe Brock Bowers maybe costing you the same, but everything else is going to cost you less. Okay. So, why move a bunch of picks to get to 1-8 to get Odunze when you might be able to package a receiver and another pick or something else to get Odunze, and and it didn't cost you as much as moving up to get the pick. So, I mean, just kind of be mindful of that, okay, with where draft pick values are, and that way you don't get too crazy with the draft picks. Uh, Here in my notes again is stay, be patient. Another one is stay committed. So sometimes what happens is we're saying, hey, I'm not really challenging here. I'm rebuilding, I'm building, and I have these older assets on my team. Nobody wants them. You know what? The heck with it. Nobody wants to pay for these guys. I'm just gonna try to win with the. Hey, this is what I want you to understand. Nobody is forced to take your players. But the other thing is this, and you don't have to give your players away for anything, for nothing. But remember, you have a long time to move that player. You have from now all the way up to the trade deadline. And then even after that, once the season comes back around, if the guy is not completely dead afterwards. And I'll give you a guy case in point, Travis Kelsey. If say you have a Kelsey on your team, right? And guys are trying to lowball you with, hey man, I'll give you 212, I'll give you 211 for Travis Kelsey. And you're like, man, hey, Travis Kelsey, the talent alone is worth a late first. And that's true. I do believe that the talent alone is worth a late first. But in Dynasty, guys, people are older in Dynasty. Dynasty people have this stigma in their head. Oh, if he's older, it means that yeah, I third for him. And that's completely untrue because the thing about Dynasty is you want to win. You don't want to just be Mr. Hey, I made the playoffs. You want to be the champion, right? At least I do. So the way I play, I want at least to be the champion. So say you have a Kelsey, nobody wants to pay you for that guy. Hey man, hold on to him. Hold on to him. Because listen, if you're not getting fairly compensated now, you just won't get fairly compensated then. So just hold on to him. And I would say make the move around or before the or whenever you well, for whenever you get a good offer, you can make the move then. But I would say, man, there's no time to panic with Travis Kelsey on your roster until you get close to the trade deadline. And then, after the trade deadline, if nobody makes the move, then hey, it is what it is. Then you could sell lower if you want to, or you can even hold, and that guy might even come back, especially if he's having a good season. So with that being said, listen, if you're getting a low return anyway, then just wait. I'm saying there's no rush. So just wait and then move Kelsey when the time is right, or when there's a guy that said, the guy that's like, hey man, you know what? That guy is, or you can even approach him and say, hey man, You got a pretty good team here. Looks like you're doing pretty well. Yeah, winning, you got some good wins. But if you had Kelsey in this tight end position here, where you're getting 8 points, you'd be getting 13 more points here, and and that is the difference between making winning the championship and not winning the championship. Especially if you guys ever notice, Kelsey usually gets more points towards the end of the season. And towards the end of the season, when it gets cold and stuff like that, usually, historically, Kelsey would get even more points. So he's definitely a league winner, and you can definitely sell him on that as well. Okay, and that's just an example. Okay, so you need to just stay committed to the plan. Hey, I'm rebuilding. Stay committed to the rebuilding. You don't have to panic and do anything too fast and rush it, but stay committed. Don't just sit here and say, don't be going in one plan and then do this herky jerky move where you change and go to a different plan. The only time I ever advise that is to say you were rebuilding, say you had some young pieces, you get some young draft picks, and those guys on the team, and say they instantly start turning up for you. Like, say you had um what was the tight end, Laporta. So you had Laporta, and you had Reed, and um, you had Kyron Williams this past year, pieces that you didn't think you were going to be competing with at first. All of a sudden, those guys turn up. Now you are a competing team, what I'm saying? Especially if you evaluate during the season and say, hey, you know what? I'm actually competing. Everybody's, playing at a high level here, what I'm saying? Then you change then your trajectory, and you say, hey, you know what? Maybe instead of moving Kelsey for a draft pick, and maybe I need to try to move him because I got Laporta. So maybe I want to move Kelsey for a player at a position that I'm weaker at, and that's just an example of like maybe this past year. So that's what I'm saying. That's the only times that you want to be changing. You want your situation to change it for you. You don't want it to just be, oh, well, you know what? Nobody's buying my old players. I'm just going to try to compete. And you don't want to do that. So you want to stay committed to the path that you have chosen until that path that you've chosen has changed it for you. So, like, say if you were competing and all your players get hurt, all right, and this is before the trade deadline, and you can kind of say, especially if guys are on IR or going for the year, your two QBs are going for the year. Now you want to say, oh, you know what? Hey, now you're building, baby, and you need to, saying, move accordingly. But your situation changed it for you. It wasn't that you gave up and said, you know what, I'm just losing. And I myself have been guilty of that. I did that a lot this past season, where I went into it competing, and then I just said, you know what, if I'm not winning, I'm out. And I started, basically rebuilding at a earlier than I should have. And when I went back and I kind of looked at my point totals and stuff like that, I realized I really hurt myself in a lot of places, in a whole lot of places. And this is a mistake that I do not want to make again. And I did the same thing in my rebuilds. I had one where I knew I had to rebuild, and I got upset the guys didn't purchase certain players from me. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to compete. And I'm worse off in those leagues than I was before. So I'm not telling you something I haven't done. I'm just giving you advice so you don't make the same mistake. So, guys, again, these are dynasty things to do now. You want to evaluate your team, rightly choose between, hey, am I competing? Hey, am I rebuilding? Something else too. And this is something that all dynasty experts or people who claim to be dynasty experts is going to do. Ask other people. Ask other people, ask other guys to evaluate your team and help you out with that. It's no problem in getting an extra pair of eyes to kind of look at your team and say, hey, where do you think I am? What do you think about this? And that's something that I do often too. So you want to, have an idea of what you're doing, and then choose the direction that you're going, and then make all of your moves in that direction. That way you're going to feel really good, about what's happening with your team, especially this time next year. Say if you didn't win in your competing team, you say, you know what, we didn't win, but man, we put forth a hell of an effort, or with your rebuild or your build, you say, hey, now we're in position to try to be a competing team, for years to come moving forward, So you definitely want to have an idea, because you're going to feel a lot better than not doing this and then feeling lost and not knowing where you're at and kind of just pulling your hair out and saying, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Especially if you make one move that's counterproductive to another move that you made later, and you're kind of like, man, I wish I hadn't made this move now because this happened. You don't want to do that. So you want to stay committed to your to your direction, because you will notice in your leagues that you're going to have some players and some guys that you're like, man, that guy's always winning in all these different leagues. That guy's doing this, that guy's doing that. And something that I want you to notice, if you pay attention to some of the guys that you think are pretty good, depending on how many leagues you play in. I'm in 60 leagues right now, but that's neither here nor there. But depending on the leagues that you play in, especially if you start playing with some of the same guys, go and look at those guys and see how often that guy is either has either one of the best teams in the league or one of the worst teams in the league. Uh, Typically, you won't see um, those guys. Those guys is consistently winning. You won't see them with middle of the pack teams. You'll see them with really good teams or teams that have a lot of young talent but aren't winning. And guys, that's kind of where you want to be. You either want to be building to win a championship, or you want to be actively pursuing the championship, because we're trying to win here. All right, guys, that's it for me. Man, Dynasty Overload podcast. Appreciate you for hanging out with me. And guys, I'm out. Y'all have a good one.